Hello, and welcome to episode 95 of Uncovering the Corners of the World podcast. I'm your host, Karina Kasmala. Using research and my personal experiences where I actually set foot in some of these places, I'll be describing some of the unknown attractions in both the U.S. and around the world, as well as share some of the hidden landmarks of some well-known attractions. We are continuing our journey through New Mexico this week, the land of enchantment. Constructing Route 66 through New Mexico proved to be more challenging than building it from Chicago to Texas because of the state's vast landscape, the various elevation levels, and rocky terrain. The first version of Route 66 in New Mexico passed through Tucumcari and Santa Rosa, and then turned to connect Santa Fe to the National Highway. Then, during various switchbacks, making the road dip 2,000 feet in elevation, the road cut through Duke City and south to Las Lunas before taking travelers on a U-turn back north to connect at Acoma Pueblo. Route 66 entered Arizona after passing through Gallup. The road went through some realignments with efforts to provide travelers a more direct, less curvy road. Because of this, in 1938, Santa Fe was no longer part of Route 66, and the road was shortened from about 507 miles to 399 miles in New Mexico. Historic U.S. Route 66 passes through the city of Tucumcari, our first stop on this week's trip. Vintage motels and neon signs decorate Tucumcari, the largest city between Amarillo and Albuquerque. Tucumcari started off as a road camp and went by the name Ragtown, and then in 1901 it went by the name Six Shooter Siding before being called Tucumcari in 1908. In 1901, the town was filled with merchants, gamblers, saloon keepers, and dance hall girls, as well as outlaws. The town was named after Tucumcari Mountain, a mountain that travelers reference to when traveling along the Canadian River. Many of the hotels in Tucumcari may look abandoned, but there is at least one motel called the Blue Swallow Motel that opened in 1939 and continues to serve customers today. A blue arch curves to the building with a bright sign that reads Blue Swallow Motel with a blue bird hovering above it. This family-owned motel lets visitors step back in time and experience the 1950s feel with its neon signs and restored rooms. While we're there, we stop by 924 East Route 66 Boulevard in Tucumcari, where we find a skeleton standing on the back of a pickup truck in front of a shop called Tee Pee Curios. A large concrete teepee marks the entrance of the gift shop, while the side of the building features a bison standing in front of the Route 66 sign. The building originally served as a gas station in 1944, before it became Leland Haynes Grocery Meats and Curious in 1948. And then in 1960, it became Jean's Trading Post, and somewhere around that time, the gas station pumps were removed. Inside Tee Pee Curios gift shop, you'll find the typical gift shop items like shirts and bumper stickers, but also unique Route 66 memorabilia where you won't find anywhere else, such as colored fake rabbit tails, gem frogs, pottery, and more. Next, we drive to Albuquerque, the largest city in New Mexico. Around 1504, Spanish explorers first arrived under General Francisco de Coronado's command. The following expeditions drew explorers to New Mexico's river valleys, and in 1706, and after receiving permission from King Philip of Spain to establish a new city, the colonists chose to build the city at the bottom of the mountains, where the river made a wide curve and provided irrigation for crops and a source for wood. We travel west of downtown Albuquerque, where we find the Rio Puerco Bridge, a bridge that at one point was part of Route 66. 10 panels, each with a top chord that is angled in a different direction, form the camelback arch of the bridge, while a 20-foot wide concrete deck with an asphalt surface stretches at the bottom. Measuring 250 feet in length, the steel truss bridge was considered the longest single-span bridge of its time in New Mexico. The bridge was constructed this way to withstand flooding that destroyed other bridges. This bridge used to cross the flooded river Rio Puerco River. In 1937, the bridge was added to the Route 66 alignment. And a few years later, in 1957, the bridge was updated with lighter struts that were placed higher, giving motorists a higher entrance while driving through, and metal guardrails were also added. But today, the bridge can only be crossed on foot. In the distance, on a sheer-walled, 367-foot sandstone bluff, and blending in with the surrounding monoliths, are pueblos that make up Acoma Pueblo. Acoma Pueblo, also goes by the name Sky City, is known as the oldest and continuously inhabited community in North America. Since 1150 AD, Acoma Pueblo is a federally recognized Native American tribe that shows the customary traditions of their Native American ancestors. However, historical evidence dates the Pueblo's oldest surviving remains to be about 1100 AD and suggests that the Acoma people lived in the desert before that and decided to build a town on top of the mesas at one point in time. Covering 431,664 acres of land, Acoma Pueblo is comprised of 5,000 tribal members, living in 250 dwellings, without access to electricity, sewers, and water. Archaeological artifacts revealed the Acoma people to be skilled potters, artisans, and architects. One of the buildings on the land is a Spanish mission church called the San Esteban del Rey Mission, built in the mid-1600s and recognized as the oldest surviving European church in New Mexico. The first permanent Franciscan father to live in Acoma was Father Juan Ramirez. When the church was constructed, Native workers had to carry materials up the mountain, which included the church's 40-foot-long ponderosa pine vigas, or roof beams. These beams were chopped down in the San Mateo Mountains, about 30 miles away. Acoma is known for its pottery, and it continues to be a significant part of its history. The Acoma potters continue to make the thin-walled, beautifully crafted Pueblo Indian pottery with its intricate designs. Many of the people live in Sky City and nearby villages, but most don't live full-time in the Pueblos. Tourists can't schedule a tour of the Acoma Pueblo during the summer. However, there are certain guidelines that tourists are asked to follow, such as buying a permit for cameras to be able to take photos, and certain areas do not allow photography. Also, tourists are asked to not wear revealing clothing, but asked to dress comfortably. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you want to learn more about Tucumcari, visit the website Tucumcari.com and tucumcarimuseum.org. To read more about Tee Pee Curios, check out the website drivingroute66.com and route66times.com. If you're curious about the history of Albuquerque, visit the website visitalbuquerque.org and the website albuquerque.com to learn about the Rio Puerco Bridge. Lastly, if you want to learn more about the Acoma Pueblo and the Native American tribe, visit the website acomaskycity.org and the National Park Service website to read about the San Esteban del Rey Mission Church. Have a great week.